Hey guys, it's Abby. Welcome back to my channel. It's so beautiful behind me, isn't it? So this is progressed Sun in Cancer and in the 4th house. And if you want to skip to the 4th house, you can go ahead. I'm going to put a timestamp in the description box if you want to just skip right to that part. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below to the intro video that I did about progressions and specifically the progressed Sun and how you can calculate your own to see where yours is. So there's only 5 signs that can ever experience a progressed Sun in Cancer. There's Natal Cancer Sun, there's Gemini Sun, Taurus Sun, Aries Sun, and on rare occasion a Pisces Sun if the timing is right and you live to a really ripe old age. So the areas that will be affected for progressed Sun in Cancer are the areas of the body that Cancer rules: the breasts, the stomach, uterus, and just like any of the female parts. So those are the areas that are going to be more emphasized during your progression. So if you are a Gemini and you're going into your Cancer solar progression, this is the first progression Sun change that you're experiencing. So you are anywhere from an early age, you could be single digits, all the way up to somewhere in your 20s. It depends on when in the season you were born. So regardless of when you go into this, you're going to all of a sudden get very nurturing. You're going to be very much about babies. So if you're a teenager going into this, please just be cautious with your activities, your extracurricular activities. If you're in your 20s and you go into this, I almost guarantee you will want to settle down, you will want to have kids. You will need something to nurture because this is the progression that represents domestication. So it, like when you were still in your Gemini progression, you are a Gemini, so you're just super out there, superficial, just want to make superficial connections, hang out with your friends, be social. At this point in your life, it's going to be a very specific change to wanting to be home and wanting to be with family, but specifically start family. So if you don't get along with your family, this is going to be a serious need to create security, which is going to be emotional security is going to be your main concern right now, by creating a family and creating something to nurture. If you are young or you're in your 20s and you don't want to have a baby just yet, I would highly recommend getting a pet. If you have friends with kids, spend a lot of time with them. You just really need someone to nurture, and you don't want to make that your partner. You're a little young, but you do you. This is also a time when you're going to be more interested in your history, your past, your genealogy, your DNA. You might want to get your, it's called 33andMe, like your, when you get your DNA tested and you see where you came from. I forget what it's called, but you might be really interested in doing that to find out where you came from. What your cultural background is. You might be really interested in the stories of your family in ways that you just really didn't care about before, because your roots and your history are so important right now. And a lot of who we are comes from our literal evolution and our family lineage, and that's not really something that we can deny. And it really becomes more apparent when we move into this Cancer progressed Sun, because you can even start to have, I'm not going to scare you, and this really is for more signs that are going to go in later in life, but you can start to have genetic conditions come out that you may have not known existed or you really didn't even consider, because that is part of our heritage. If you are a Taurus and you're going into your Cancer solar progression, then you're a little bit older. So you either are in your early 30s if you were born at the very end of Taurus season, right up until almost 60 if you were at the very beginning of Taurus season. Since you are more middle-aged now, if you're early enough in this progression, this is the time that you'll domesticate. You'll settle down, even if you have a family already and you've already got kids, you've got a husband, you'll really settle into that domestic life at this point, and emotional security becomes paramount importance to you. You could overeat during this progression, seriously. Tauruses are already prone to overeating, overindulging. This is, instead of just material security, which is your lifeblood, you're going to be needing emotional security, and the Cancer food stomach thing is real. It's just a serious thing. Ask any Cancer Sun. Food is basically comfort to them. So that's going to be your comfort zone for this as well. The other thing that you're going to be interested in during this progression is, again, your family heritage. At this point in time, you might be more of the category of people going through this progression who are finding out about any genetic disorders you have, anything you inherited, like literally inherited disease, things that are passed down. You are going to maybe have aging parents and parents that are passing away during this time in your life. So you're going to literally be dealing with ailing parents, taking care of. So this is an interesting thing because Cancer normally represents the mother, but the Sun represents the father. So you could actually be spending more time like helping or taking care of something to do with your father, like a nurturing role for your father. It's almost like a role reversal. But your mother and your maternal lineage can become very important for you to understand as an important part of your identity during this progression, because the maternal lineage is like genetically it's very significant, and Cancer is the moon, is the mother. So it just becomes something that is very important to you. And if you have kids of your own, you're going to start thinking about leaving your own legacy to them and really redefining what family means, what security means to you, and what you need to have emotional security, because emotions become everything during this progression. It's like this is going to be your first water progression. If you're a Taurus Sun, you just moved out of your air progression in Gemini. So this is really a time where you experience and explore emotions and what it means to like really fluctuate with the cycles of the moon as well. If you are an Aries Sun and you're going through this, then this is your final element progression. So you're not going to reach this until you are either in your early 60s, if you were born at the very end of Aries season, or you could actually be upwards almost at 90 if you were born at the beginning of Aries season, because you will have had to get all the way through like almost 90 years of progressions. So this is your water. So you started as fire, cardinal fire. You went through fixed earth, mutable air, and now you're at cardinal water. So this is where most Aries will, if they haven't ended their lives early, they will end their lives in this progression. So this is when you really get to explore emotions and heritage and family. So it comes a little bit later for Aries, but eventually they have a serious desire to explore emotional security in the domestic front and what their past means, what their heritage, their lineage, what they inherited and what they are passing on. So this can be a little bit confusing for Aries because we are cardinal fire. I'm an Aries, and like to us, that cardinal leadership initiating energy comes in the form of creativity. If it's emotional, it's like that fiery emotion, passion. Water cardinal signs are more about like being the matriarch of a family, or, you know, the patriarch obviously, but in a maternal way, like in a very nurturing way, regardless of what your gender is. And it's also about like kind of leading in the domestic front. So it's just a different flavor for Aries to explore. And I think it's really that emotional element that makes this a more deepening experience for us and our identity, because this is the shade of our identity as we end our life. This is our golden years, basically, once we get here. This is also when you start to really have to deal with any genetic issues, like anything you've inherited from your parents genetically. If you haven't had to deal with it, you're going to, because this is your old age. Consider what you're leaving to your children as far as genetics. Like if you have any illnesses or anything that, you know, anything that could be passed down to them, this is the time that you want to make sure that they know that this is honestly a time where you really get to enjoy your grandchildren, if you have had children and grandchildren, because Aries are little kids of the zodiac. So this is like where you get to have fun and really have a domesticated experience with your grandkids, perhaps in a way that you didn't even get to explore and experience fully with your own kids. I have to wrap this video up. There's bugs biting me. Now, some Pisces will experience their Cancer progression only if you were born at the very end of Pisces season and then you end up living until you're in your 90s. If you do this, this is a very like coming full circle water to water progression. You have to go through your own water progression, but that would not be for too long if you were born at the end of Pisces season. 30 years of fire, 30 years of earth, 30 years of air, and then you go back to water. Kind of taking on a very leadership quality that Pisces doesn't naturally have. Pisces is more of, it's mutable water, so it's more of like fluid. It just forms into whatever container it's poured into. Cancer is really a formed water. It's like a hermit crab, basically. It's a crab, and they have pincers, and they protect their family, and they protect their home. I want to say it's like a subjective, sort of protective experience for Pisces, who just has no form. Pisces just doesn't have anything to stand for really at the beginning of life. It's just very much like these little old souls walking around. After everything I've lived and everything I've seen and everything I've done, I finally realized that what matters to me is my family, my home, where I came from, my genetics, who I am, my lineage, and what my legacy is for my children and my grandchildren. If you have your progressed sun moving through your 4th house, then everything that mattered to you when it was in the 3rd house, like communication, expressing yourself, education, information, all of that falls to the wayside, because now the only thing that matters is security, but not material security like the 2nd house and like finances. No. It's all about emotional security. So at this point, you can start to have a focus on like eating your feelings. Anything that comes up as a genetic disorder might be something that happens to you during this progression. Domestic life is of utmost importance. Your home life, your family. It's funny because most people think it's the mother is the 4th house, but it's actually the father. In traditional astrology is represented by the IC, which is the angle on the cusp of the 4th house. So you might have issues dealing with your father. Also, like I said, anything having to do with heritage and your lineage is going to be significant to you right now. So you might be dealing with issues surrounding, not necessarily financial inheritance, because that's the 8th house, but genetic stuff. All right, guys, so that is progressed sun through Cancer and the 4th house. I'm getting eaten by bugs, so I have to take off. But if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and please give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.